Hello everyone, welcome to my new video. Today I want to talk about the carousel choices you make during your games. This part of the game is still growing, so it's good to know if there is room for improvement in our gameplay. So let's jump into the topic. The first carousel appears at stage 0, where the portal decides which region we will start in for the early game. This choice can open up some strategies or make other much easier. Here we should think about common, uncommon and rare regional Pokémon. To find them you can check the wiki. In the Pokémon tab, select the chosen rarity and set the pool to regional. If you want to see which region a Pokémon belongs to, go to the region tab and use the search bar to find it. I won't go through every option here, I just want to mention some of the more interesting ones. Let's start with Alolan Raichu, which is still a great pick for a high roll strategy. To find him, look for a portal with psychic symbol, since all regions include it. Another high roll option is Chimchar. Infernape works well as a strong carry, but even Monferno is still a viable early game carry. To be in the right region to find him, look for portals with human, fire or fighting symbols. Other regional common Pokémon can be used as synergy fillers or early game carries, like Alolan Geodude, which is a decent pick for electric synergies. Tynamo, thanks to his interesting typing, is valuable even in the late game as synergy filler. For uncommon Pokémon, I would highlight Cleffa, since she helps a lot with activating the baby synergy, which is a popular early game strategy. After the recent updates, artificial synergy became really popular, and Varoom can be a very solid part of your team. In the rare category, the early game Pokémon mainly help activate synergy before you get unique picks, for example Dino. A general tip for this stage, most Pokémon appear in regions that match at least one of their synergies. Next we have the items carousels. I won't talk about item preference here, that's a topic for different guide video. Instead I will focus on the residents of Treasure Town you can encounter at these stages. We have a chance to meet Chansey at stage 4. At this point, instead of item, she offers Pokémon Egg for 10 gold. But the real question is this purchase worth it? Let's think about it. How valuable is 10 gold at stage 4? Usually at that point we have around 16 gold, so buying an egg means we lose our gold cap income. Because of that we will reach 50 gold later than players who skip it, and that slows our leveling. In other words, we will start rolling for ultras at level 8 a bit later. For taking that risk we get a random hatch Pokémon. This can push our strategy in a certain direction, depending on what we get, since we naturally want to make that Pokémon useful. There are better and worse hatches, of course, but all of them can become valuable team members in the late game once they evolve to stage 3. Except for Axew, every hatch Pokémon has at least 2 types. That gives us more options when building a team. It's especially helpful when we are unlucky with rolls for specific synergy. There's always another path to take. I would say this choice mostly depends on personal preference. Of course, buying an egg is a gambling. It's narrower potential strategy, but hatch Pokémon are usually very valuable. Your choice depends on your playstyle. Both ways have their supporters. Do you buy eggs from Chansey? Let me know in the comment. We can also meet Duskull, who beside items offers coin which gives you 3 gold and increase your gold cap to 60. There is 4 coin to get, so not all players will have it. It's really good item, boosting your economy. Only downside here is that keeping 60 gold decrease a little your mid-game tempo, but it will be restored in couple stages. Personally, I take it if I can in most cases. When you desperately need some component, you could consider take it over coin. At stage 4, Meowth can appear and along with items offers 4 amulet coins. Each amulet coin gives you 1 gold for every enemy Pokémon knocked out by its holder. At first glance this sounds like a great item, but let's take a closer look at the downsides. Most important one is that it reducing your gold cap in most cases to 40 gold. This decreases your general income by 1, so to be even you have to have at least 1 knockout per round. Every next one will be profit. If you choose the amulet coin, you can end up with an odd numbers of items, which means you can't craft 1 compared to players who picked regular item from Meowth. Since the amulet coin doesn't provide any stat boost, this can have an impact later in the game. It forces us to craft item faster to increase chances to gain this extra gold by our carry. Also, in the late game we usually don't want to equip it on our main carry, so it becomes less useful at that point. The value of this item is pretty straightforward. It can help our economy if your carry manages to secure some knockouts. However, I wouldn't recommend taking it if your team is performing poorly, whether that's on purpose or just bad luck. So if you are playing for a loose streak, running baby synergy, or just having a rough shop options, the item won't generate much gold. There's one important thing to keep in mind: only 50% of players can get the amulet coin. Even if it doesn't bring you much value, you might want to grab one just to deny that advantage from your rivals. That's why this isn't always an easy decision. It really depends on your situation. In other cases, if you already have a decent early game carry or an evolved Pokémon, the amulet coin can give you some extra gold and help increase your tempo. So in this situation, I would say it's worth picking up the amulet if you have the option. This decision depends on your team strength and power of your opponents. If you get all of this information, the decision is much easier to make. Another town resident at this stage is Wigglytuff, who gives you one of 5 missions. You can choose from 3 options, and when you complete the mission, you will earn 30 gold. These quests are usually quite hard and are mostly completed in the late game. First mission, get 5 3-star Pokémon. This one is pretty tough, because even if you count unique and legendary unit, you still need 3 more 3-star to finish it. If you are not going for an early high roll strategy, it's really hard to complete, since most of the time you don't aim for that many first stage Pokémon. Second mission, deal 100 damage to your opponents. That sounds like a lot, but let's break it down. The damage formula looks like this. So if you won every duel with just 1 Pokémon left, you would complete this quest after stage 21. With 2 Pokémon left, it would be around stage 18. And with 3 Pokémon left, around stage 17. Most of the increase comes from the stage level, not the numbers of survivors. A few more examples. If you have lose streak early on and start winning at stage 10, you would finish the quest around stage 22 with the win streak. If you start winning later, say at stage 15, you would complete it around stage 25. And the most eye-opening case, if you win every second duel, you would finish it around stage 30, which is really late. So to sum it up, if you completely dominate the game, you might get the 30 gold reward around stage 20, but that doesn't happen often. To me, this quest feels like a win more type. If you are already ahead, you can complete it, but if you are struggling, it's much harder. However, in this less optimistic scenario, you can be rewarded by spending some extra gold to boost your roster. This helps you to maintain a relatively healthy economy afterwards. So to complete this quest, you need to be hungry for the win and willing to spend some gold to secure it. Third mission, reach level 9. This one is the simplest and on the surface looks like a great deal. You can push hard for leveling, and once you reach level 9 you get gold back for rolling what you need. Plus you gain 1 more board slot, so the reward feels even better than the previous missions. In most of my games I reach level 8 around stage 20, with about 40-50 gold left. Let's quickly analyze that example. To get from level 8 to level 9 we need 72 experience. We earn 2 experience per round and we can buy the rest. Every 4 experience costs 4 gold, so we need about 70 gold total. With a basic income of 5 gold and 5 gold from gold cap, it takes about 2 rounds to gather what we need. So around stage 22 we can be at level 9 with 30 gold. For more a typical way of playing, this quest looks like a very good option to take, because this mission is much more stable and predictable compared to the others. Fourth mission, activate 8 different synergies at the same time. This one is doable, but it forces you into very specific strategies. Usually, only Dragon or Amorphous team can achieve it, and even then it's still a bit of a puzzle. If you enjoy these strategies and your early picks look good, you can go for it, but it can easily become a trap that pushes you into a less optimal team build. Still, it's a fun challenge to try. Fifth mission, earn a total of 200 gold. Let's do a quick calculation again. With a pure win streak, it takes about 15 stages. With a pure lose streak, it's around 16 stages. But of course the game rarely goes that perfectly. If you win every second duel, you will complete it around stage 22, still fairly early. I assume that you are maintaining the 50 gold cap to maximize income. So my personal ranking of Wigglytuff's missions looks like this. First place, earn 200 gold. Stable and consistent, and even in a bad game it's achievable fairly early. Second place, reach level 9. Doable and flexible with many strategies. Third place, dealing 100 damage. It's harder than 2 previous ones, but still gives you flexibility in your game. Activate 8 synergies and get 5 3-stars Pokemon. Tied in last place, since both require very specific setups that don't always fit your game plan. Luckily, since you always get 3 mission options, there should be at least one of the more stable ones picked. The next resident you can meet at stage 4 and in many later stages as well is Electivire. His deal is simple. Instead of typical items, we get the chance to buy a tool for 10 gold. These are artificial items, so let's take a look at them. There are 22 tools available in total. 19 of them grant synergies to their holders, along with some additional buffs. Let's start by looking at 3 tools that don't give synergy. Terrain Extender. This one is still synergy related since it creates fields for one of 4 types: Grass, Fairy, Psychic or Electric. These fields give a 20% damage boost to Pokémon of that type, and because of how the item works, the field also extends to nearby allies. It's a nice way to increase overall team damage. It doesn't have to be on your main carry, it can also work well on secondary carry Pokémon placed close to your main carry. Just make sure the holder doesn't faint too early, so the field can spread to a few more teammates. Decent item. XP Share. This is one of the best items you can get. The holder gains the highest attack, ability power, defense and special defense values from the Pokémon standing next to it. This can be a huge boost, especially if those adjacent Pokémon already have stat increasing items. The key here is positioning. You need to decide which Pokémon will be the best givers and who should hold the XP share. Max Elixir. This restores full PP 1 second after the first ability cast. It can give a massive advantage during the early moments of battle, especially when combined with strong abilities. On the downside, one ability cast not always have much value. It simply can be targeted poorly and don't bring much damage. Rest of the items grants also synergy for the holder, so for that synergy, this item is always at least good. I will focus on the non-synergy value of tools. First, Cooking Pot. Boost defense is nice, but not great. I see here great value if you combine this tool with Flame Orb. Then it grants huge amount of speed to your Pokémon. Great combo, but hard to get it. So without Flame Orb and synergy purpose, I would try to find something better. Similar boost to Cooking Pot we can get from Magmarizer, which also benefits us. Our Pokémon has burn status. Pokerus Vial. This item grants a poison synergy and it's quite strong even if you are not playing a poison team. It gives the Pokerus status to its holder, which increases attack by 1 and ability power by 10 every 2.5 seconds. Then it spreads the status to other allies. It's a scaling effect that becomes really strong in late game battles, which usually last longer than 10 seconds. After each spread, there are more spreaders, so it doesn't take long before most of your team gets the effect. Overall boost isn't huge, but this item can be a tiebreaker for a close duels. Electivire. Besides being good for electric synergies and related side synergies, it's also great for basic attack focused teams. It can work well with field, wild or sound synergy teams, or simply for carries that rely on basic attacks, combined well with loaded dice. Tiny Mushroom. This one can be used to copy a powerful Pokémon and not only in bug type teams. Many synergies include at least one bug type, for example Psychic has Blip Bug. Even one bug is enough to copy any Pokémon you want as long as you give it the Tiny Mushroom and bring another bug to the team to activate the bug to synergy. Downside is the clone will have only 50% of the max HP, so it is better for backliners. Air Balloon. Aside from boosting the flying synergy, it gives 10% dodge chance and immunity to board effects. It works similar to heavy duty boots, making it pretty strong defensive item. Combined with nice speed boost, this is nice item for basic attack Pokémon. Metronome. With sound synergy, this item also provides PP regeneration, which is very valuable for ability based carriers. Running Shoes. With field synergy, these are great not only for field Pokémon but also for any basic attack users. It gives a flat speed boost and also increases speed further with each tile the Pokémon moves. Incense. Gives Flora synergy and also have really interesting ability, where we increase chances that Pokémon in the shop will share typing with the holder of it. This can save a lot of gold for rerolling and also help us improve team without rolling when we prioritize leveling. Nice item, but it's still a gamble. The other tools mainly provide synergy with simply stat boosts, so they will always give your team some extra power. That's why I personally would always buy something from Electivire when I get a chance. The worst items, if we don't count synergy, are Silk Scarf and Explorer Kit. On the podium I will place also Spell Tag as 9 seconds is pretty long time and in many battles this won't trigger. If you see Marowak during one of your Carousel stages, it means that the next PvE fight will be more difficult. In practice, this means that wild Pokémon you will face will have items equipped. This information is especially important if you spot him at stage 4, because that means your Gyarados fight will be tougher than usual. If you feel your roster isn't particularly strong that moment, it's a good idea to make a few upgrades before taking on that challenge. In other situations, you don't need to worry too much, unless you've been unlucky with team building and are already losing most of your PvP duels. All information about items held by Pokémon in PvE stages you can find in tab stages in Wiki. Meeting Celebi at stage 4 or 17 means your next fight will be a shiny battle. This happens only before the Gyarados or Hu and Lugia fights. Defeating these shiny opponents rewards you with a choice of 3 shiny items. There are 11 shiny items in total. Let's take a look at each of them. First, Dynamax Band. Increases max HP by 200%. This is especially useful for frontline carries, since the longer they live, the more they can tank and deal damage. For pure tanks, it's also great because it buys more time for your backline. However, your backline carries it's not a good pick, they usually have low defense, so the HP boost doesn't do much. Shiny Stone, a huge buff but only for light synergy. It powers up by adding second light spot and gives synergy stack. If you are planning to play light, this is a fantastic choice, otherwise it's completely useless, only worth picking if you are aiming for light at least as side synergy. Rare Candy, a really interesting option. The idea is to give it to a stage 2 Ultra Pokémon from your synergy. In that case, it's a huge power spike. Earlier on, you can just put it on a temporary carry. The jump in stats between stage 2 and stage 3, even for rare and epic Pokémon, is very significant. Value of this item increases with across the higher rarity Pokémon. I value Rare Candy because of its flexibility. Eviolite. Similar in concept to Rare Candy, but instead of evolving the Pokémon, it gives a strong stat boost to one that isn't fully evolved. Let's compare it to the stat jump between stage 2 and 3 Ultra Pokémon. The 100 HP isn't huge. For example, the difference between Luxio and Luxray is only about 10 HP less. For most range 1 Pokémon, the HP difference is at least 100, often more. It also gives plus 10 attack, which is close to or slightly less than what evolution provides. For ability power, most ability-based carries gain even more from evolution, but not always. The biggest advantage of Eviolite comes from its plus 10 defense and special defense, which together is usually more than evolution gives. So Eviolite is more defensive option, especially strong in the early stages, since boosts from lower rarity Pokémon are smaller than those from Ultras. It's also better when used on Pokémon with only one possible evolution. Because of that, I would recommend Eviolite over Rare Candy if you get this choice after the Gyarados fight. If you see it before the legendary pick, it depends on how close you are to a stage 2 Ultra Pokémon. If you are almost there, Rare Candy might be worth to gamble, but it's always a risk. White Flute. I don't have much experience with this one. It seems decent since it spawns a wild Pokémon and scales with stage level. I would compare it to the Bug Synergy where we copy one of our best bug units, useful but more of a support role. It becomes really strong if you are running Wild Synergy, since your spawn Pokémon will also get the synergy bonuses. In other cases, it's just a nice but not game-changing item. Golden Bottle Cap. A solid economy scaling item. To get the most out of it, you need a crit based build. The biggest downside is that if you are in trouble and have to spend your gold, you lose the crit power boost that depends on your savings. In late game, when you are trying to reach level 9 or rolling for key evolutions, that can make it less impactful. I would say this item is better before the unique pick rather than before the legendary pick, since the extra gold generation can bring more value long term. Absorb Bulb. Not seen often, but an interesting defensive item for tanks. It gives a large defense increase and even adds a bit of offense. It's a one-time effect, so the value depends heavily on positioning and luck. It can be amazing or do almost nothing. Personally, I prefer the Dynamax Band for its consistency and because the HP boost usually gives more value than the Bulb defense increase. Also, Bulb can be countered by true damage. Sacred Ash. A tricky item. On paper it sounds fantastic, but you have to consider real battle condition. It can resurrect up to 3 allies without items and the targets are random. Sometimes it goes perfectly, but other times it revives synergy fillers instead of your key carries. It's based on strong frontline unit that can survive long enough to trigger the effect. Overall it's a decent item, but keep in mind that your opponent will also have shiny items, many of which provide instant combat power. Comet Shard. A very specific item since its damage scales with attack. It needs complementary items to shine. Flame Orb and Safety Goggles are the best combos. Because it forces the Pokémon to dive, it's ideal for range 1 units. Its initial impact is amazing, but it can be countered by good enemy positioning. Also, if it's your only diving Pokémon, it will get focused fast. You need to plan around it carefully, so you don't send your unit on suicidal dive. Repeat Ball, a gambling item. It forces you to roll more often, but also grants stat boost and chance to find very strong Pokémon in the shop. It's unpredictable and fun to use, but since I prefer consistency, it's not one of my usual choices. Golden Bow. It makes your Pokémon not count toward the squad limit, meaning you can have one extra team member. It only gives a 50 shield bonus. While it can make activating some synergies easier, battles are usually decided by a few powerful units, not just quantity. We can also meet Makuhita, who gives us a Dojo ticket that allows him to train one of our Pokémon. There are 3 types of Dojo tickets: Bronze, Silver and Gold. Each one has a different training time, and the longer the training, the bigger the stat boost. The type of ticket you receive depends on which stage you meet Makuhita. During the training, the chosen Pokémon is replaced by a substitute, a temporary Pokémon without any ability, and not really useful in battle. That means you lose some fighting power while training happens, so you have to plan carefully who should take the ticket. The choice isn't obvious, because using a ticket reduces your team strength. It's riskier at later stages. If you use it on your main damage dealer, losing rounds late in the game can cost a lot of HP. That's why it's generally safer to train your main carry or unique pick only if you meet Makuhita early, around stage 4 or 12. In the worst case scenario, you might lose about 20 HP, which is acceptable. A good practice is to time the training during a PvE round. Just be careful, if the PvE fight is against Gyarados, it might be tough to win with a weaker team. If you get a ticket after stage 14, the risk increases. Losing 3 PvP rounds could cost you at least 27 HP. Because of that, I recommend using the ticket on a secondary Pokémon instead of your main carry. It could be a support, tank or backup carry, someone useful but not crucial to your team's current power. That way you stay strong in PvP duels and don't lose unnecessary HP just because of the training. At stages 12 and 22 we can meet Kecleon, who sells synergy stones for 10 gold. At stage 12, in most cases, we've already been sitting at 50 gold for a few rounds and are aiming to level up to level 8 as soon as possible. So spending 10 gold and stone isn't always an easy decision. If the stone matches your main synergy, it's a no-brainer, just buy it. If it fits with one of your side synergy, it's still a good purchase because it can help you either increase your synergy level or replace a filler Pokémon with a stronger one. In other cases though, you can get small stat bonus for 10 gold, which isn't make really difference, especially when leveling faster than your rivals can bring you some win streak. Then I recommend don't buy it at stage 12. At stage 22, your decision should be more strategic. By then you should already have a clear idea of your endgame team. That knowledge is really important here. Besides the situation we already talked about, a stone can also be valuable if it helps you activate an extra synergy. For example, activating Ice synergy can give your entire team a nice overall bonus. If stone cannot help you with synergy management, 10 rolls have more value than a little stat boost. Xatu is a pretty straightforward town resident. He sells treasure boxes with 2 random components inside for 10 gold, which means you will get at least 1 random crafted item out of it. If you still have some unused components, this makes your build options much wider and can really help you finish the items you want. In that case, it's a no-brainer, just buy it. If you have already used all of your components, it's still a good deal, just with a bit more risk involved. Kangaskhan works in similar way, selling craftable items for 10 gold. Here you simply need to pick the one that best fits your team. I wouldn't buy it only if a remaining option are stones that don't help your squad at all. Otherwise, it's usually worth picking up. Wobbuffet. Meeting Wobbuffet doesn't change the regular item component carousel. Instead, he gives you a recycle ticket which lets you turn a crafted item back into the components it was made from. It's a nice way to rearrange your item strategy for the late game. Sometimes useful, but not always necessary. Important to mention is that if you recycle item held by Pokémon, it will recycle all items and basic components will be on your bench. This is a great option to rearrange item holders. Sableye adds something special to the regular item carousel, synergy gems, the same kind used in the ground synergy digging mechanic. They are great picks if you know what you will need later, since they replace a synergy filler and free up a squad slot, which can be really valuable. If you don't have a clear plan though, and there's no obvious choice, it's usually safe to just take a normal item instead. Croagunk is similar to Wobbuffet, but instead of recycling, he gives you exchange ticket. It lets you swap an item component or crafted item for another random one. This is super helpful if you didn't get the component or item you really wanted. I usually use it on components, not finished items, unless I crafted something completely useless for my current team. Spinda is more of a fun, chaotic resident. He simply messes with the carousel, making your pick a bit harder to grab. He doesn't change rewards, just makes the selection more unpredictable, so be careful not to accidentally take something you don't want. Regirock is a real lifesaver. He grants plus 15 HP to all players, which can make a huge difference. At the stages where you can meet him, that extra health often means you can survive one more round, and sometimes that's exactly what you need for a comeback. Munchlax gives everyone a picnic set. When you use it, make sure to adjust your positioning so all your Pokémon can reach the sandwiches. The stat boost depends on the Pokémon's type, so spread them wisely to get the most value of it. Positioning here is a key. Best option is to give it to the Pokémon in the center, then you can give boost up to 10 Pokémons. That was a lot of information, but I hope you learned something new and that it helps you improve your gameplay. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it will really help my channel. That's all for this guide. Thank you for watching and we will see you in the next video. Bye!